The date is Friday, March 26th, and you're listening to Entertain This, a thought-provoking podcast encapsulating all things entertainment. Streaming services have allowed us to watch new films even under the ongoing global Panda Express, which forced many theaters to shut their doors in 2020. And you'd think that directors would be happy that more people are able to experience their films in the comfort of their own homes. But that's not the case, and we brought on a special guest to talk us through just that. So enjoy!
Hey, it's us.
Hi.
Surprise! Guess who was behind the Entertain This logo? That's right, it was your friendly neighborhood boys, here to talk to you once again about all things entertainment. It's Entertain This!
Entertain this!
Welcome back. Another week has passed, and here we are yet again, taking on the mighty microphone to speak with you about all things entertainment. Not only has another week passed, but another month, the first month of the year, technically? No, this is our first guest of the year, isn't it?
Second.
It's our second guest of the year. Who was our first?
I'm second?
Yeah. Your second guest. This is
More Magazine, don't you remember?
Oh, yes, we did start the year with More Magazine.
Yep,
so
yep.
you're our
Clearly
second.
they weren't as important because you forgot, so.
We've had a lot of guests over
Yeah.
the past year, but we
Yeah,
welcome back.
I was also
Go-
trying to think if Dr. Stephen Price was this year or last year, and I cannot remember.
I can't either. I think it
I
was
think it was
last
this
year,
year,
though.
actually, yeah.
Who
Yeah.
knows? We don't even know the lore of our own show. Somebody out there probably knows, but it's
What
not
is
us.
Wait,
But
there's canon?
oh no, he cut out. I don't know what his great goof
No.
was.
I said, is this canon?
This is canon. This is part of it.
Okay.
And eventually, we're going to end up having like our own wiki page of entertain
Yeah,
this
yeah,
lore.
like a fandom page.
Oh yeah, no, we're
Yeah.
deep in the trenches now. Once people start figuring out the clues for the ARG we've been carefully and meticulously laying out for the past
Totally.
year, they're going to get into it pretty
Mhm.
big.
Oh, yeah.
I haven't
Yeah.
heard of this.
But longtime fans of the show might recognize the voice that is so gently cusping their ears from our Universal versus Disney debate.
One of the
Um,
best we've ever done.
Yeah, one of the better episodes of Entertain This, I would argue. It's definitely one that when people ask me about the show, it's one that I suggest they go and listen to. But from that spire from which we built, we welcome Nick Wolf. Welcome back, buddy.
Hey, thank you guys. This is it's funny that you bring that up because it's just like, I mean, not to divulge details, but like that like feels like a lifetime ago as far as like where I've been in my life. So and
Yeah.
it's, what, maybe less than a year from
Yeah.
when we recorded basically. So like it feels like I've journeyed like across country, and in some regards I kind of have.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm delighted to be back, and thank you for letting me be on the show. It's
For
fun
sure.
to be here.
At the
No
time
way.
you were living down in Florida, you're working at Universal,
Mm.
but you're actually back up here in Cincinnati
Mhm.
with us right now, which is
Mhm.
pretty awesome to have you back up here with us. I know that you and I have been hanging out a lot more recently. It's been
Yeah.
a blast. But we're happy to have you on the show. I think that you've brought an interesting topic for us to discuss this month with you. So let's just delve right into it, and I'll throw the keys to this car to you, and you can take us on a little drive.
Oh shoot, you're just gonna hand it over to me, just 100%. Well, I should note before we
Go
get
ahead.
started, just I don't know if this is per normal of how you guys do things when you typically record, but and I feel bad dating this, but today is St. Patty's Day.
Correct, it is.
Hey.
So we all are, we're all drinking our respective alcoholic bevies, except for the aptly named Thick Nick, or the original Nick.
Thick Nick
is-
wants to keep his sleep schedule okay, so he's
Yep.
going to be.
Doctor said
Sustaining.
I was too thick, so I got to stop drinking. That's what he said.
You know that we're a visual medium now too, Nick, so they can see you.
Caught.
And who knows what you're hiding in that good old container of yours? It could
Yeah,
be
the
anything there.
the hydro flask of
Yeah.
yours.
And we know
I
too,
know.
Nick, because the only size of T-shirts that you ordered of Entertain This are size medium.
That's true.
If
Yeah,
anybody would
yeah.
like to buy a strictly medium Entertain This T-shirt, Nick, go ahead and model those for us, Thick Nick. Let's see it. Stand up. Give him a
I
little.
can't. This chair's
Yes,
got
you
me.
can. No, you can do it.
Hold on, here we go.
Strap yourself in your
People who listen to our podcast, they are loving
There it
this
is.
right now.
Yeah.
For those of you who don't know, it's a red T-shirt with our logo on it. You can reach out
That's
to
not too
Nick
bad.
on some social media, and he will probably hook you up. Probably not. Who knows? He only has medium, so if you're any size other than a medium, you can yell at him profusely until he orders other sizes.
We're gonna have dark mode soon. I'm gonna order all different sizes. We're gonna have a black T-shirt, and it's gonna have the Entertain This logo on it.
Yeah, I'll take one of those too.
All right, give me your size.
I need it in black.
Yeah, I would also like it in black, please. I have to keep my techie blacks going.
Mm-hmm.
But that being said, I am wearing green today, so I'm glad that you did date it. It looks like you're wearing green as well. Look at you. Yeah, very nice.
I'm not Irish. I don't feel obligated to participate in this holiday.
You're both too far away to pinch, but just know spiritually I'm pinching
my
you.
butt.
Okay, I feel like I'm more in line with the spirit since I'm drinking Tullamore Dew, a fantastic Irish whiskey.
Well, I'm drinking Guinness.
Brag about it.
Well known in Dublin
Doesn't make you more Irish
as a beer. No, my red goatee that grows in does, because I grow a blonde mustache and a red goatee. It's terrible. It's that little bit of Irish in me.
By a
I know.
leprechaun.
It's bad, man. I'm not very happy about it.
No, you're at like that like 5th day of the transformation from the 13th year.
No, it was Luck of the Irish, you asshole.
Luck of the
Got
Irish.
him.
Sorry.
Both are
I
got my
transformation-related
decomp.
films.
Yeah.
You're right.
Both are transformation. So
Luck of the Irish
do
now
that.
streaming on Disney Plus. Go check it out. Fuck WandaVision. Just watch that.
Hey,
Yep.
Nah, WandaVision's great.
yeah, I was about to say.
I've only
Don't
seen
you
the
throw my
first
girl
one.
Wanda out
about
there.
virtually punch you through the screen.
Falcon punch.
Anyway, we've delved away from the topic at hand for too long. I'm sure they're all sitting on the edge of their seats wondering how we're going to get around to the topic that we've titled this podcast episode.
What are we
Oh, you
talking
mean
about?
we didn't naturally segue into it? We have to revert course and get back on track.
Well, that would be on you since you're the only one here who actually knows what we're talking about.
Yeah.
What are we talking
None of you
about?
guys were briefed.
I briefed
None of
them.
you guys know.
Nope.
I briefed
forgot,
them a
sorry.
while ago.
This is
I
weird
intentionally
because Alex
forgot.
is saying one thing and the other two guys are saying something completely different. But okay,
Nick, I
briefed
feel
us.
like you might be avoiding it.
I'm not avoiding it. Let us tarry no further.
Bite the bullet.
I will bite the bullet. So I approached Alex with this topic because it's something that's near and dear to me, and it's fairly recent in the zeitgeist of current events. We are in the throes.
Word.
Sorry, note. Everybody was briefed on this because we've been leading up to it for like 5 weeks now. He's been doing segments in the middle of our show to lead up to this. So I was right.
Okay, well, I don't want to spoil it. I don't want to
Loosely.
steal your thunder.
I didn't even know I was doing the quick this today, Alex.
That's not my fault.
Michael lives on Mars. That's his
I
problem.
do.
He's got that
I got
Elon
my
Musk
flight through
money.
Elon, yeah.
Sorry.
So
please
it
continue.
was a loose follow up over the course of the preceding weeks that we've had with my little, I guess, quick mini reviews. So you can probably guess that the topic of conversation today on this episode is going to pertain to movies. More specifically, what I want to talk about is the recent decision that was made, I think, in the middle of last year during the Pandemic Express, or however you aptly.
The Worldwide Panda Express.
There it is. There it is. Cool. So in the middle of that, Warner Brothers and HBO, right? They are together. They are one. They came out and said, hey, basically, all of our entire 2021 slate of films is going to be directly on HBO Max the same day as it's going to be in theaters for no extra charge. And that's the entire slate. So from January of this year now, 2021, to the end, December, all of their major releases are going to premiere day and date on streaming services in the comfort of your own home and in theaters. And that's the basic sort of jumping off point that we're going to get to. I want to talk about, I'll briefly cover the scope of that in the sense of like what movies are captured in that, in the 2020 release schedule for Warner Brothers, because it's a big swath of huge movies that it's going to be very interesting to see these big tentpole superhero blockbusters. How do they fare in theaters versus how will they premiere for basically free on HBO Max in people's homes? So I want to go over that, and I want to go over two particular directors' response to this decision. And then I want to have a conversation with you guys about what do you think that this means for the future of cinema, more specifically movie houses, right? So, your Regals, your Cinemarks, AMC, and smaller mom and pop chains like the Esquire Theater that's just like up the road here in Cincinnati area, right? So that's kind of the blueprint of the things that I want to talk about with you guys. Where do you want to begin, guys? Were you guys aware of this, and what do you guys think of this just sort of as a blanket, gut reaction of how do you feel about this proposal and this plan that they're, it's March now, so they're kind of 3 months-ish into this whole release strategy. What do you guys think about it?
So my first question would be, for these studios, at least in my head, they make most of the money back from the film through box office, through like the money they make in theaters and stuff like that. And then at least the way it's always worked in my small peanut caveman mind is that anything they get from home video releases is extra on top. And that's talking like back before streaming, like DVDs, VHS, like any of that money was like, oh, that's bonus. Or like merchandise, oh, that's like bonus. So my question would be, if they're not doing theatrical releases, do they still somehow break even through the subscriptions to HBO Max, or what's their like monetary plan here?
Well, so the details are, well, it is still a theatrical run, right?
Sure.
So let's take for example the one that's coming up here this month in like I think a week or two actually, Kong versus Godzilla, or Godzilla versus Kong, depending on where your allegiance is.
Which one do you think is the protagonist?
Wait, can we stop real quick and just take a quick just survey on who we're rooting for in the big game that's coming up, the only one that matters, Kong versus Godzilla.
Yes.
I'll be honest and I'll break the ice. I'm team Godzilla. He's my OG boy and I think he's cool.
Kong. King Kong, to be exact.
Okay.
He's a gorilla.
It's okay to be wrong. What about you guys?
Well, he's a big guy. I mean, he's a big gorilla.
He will be king once he whoops Godzilla's ass. And,
there you go. We agree.
Because at the end of King of Monsters, Godzilla is aptly titled King of Monsters after defeating, King Ghidorah and Rodan and all that, and all the other monsters are like, oh shit, we'll bow down, right? But Kong, as they say in the trailer, bows to no one. So he's going to come in there and he's going to put some whoop ass. And I've been following the movie pretty religiously and kind of parsing out through the trailer. And I basically have a fundamental understanding of how the movie's going to pan out. The director did say that there's going to be one long interrupted, like 5-minute sequence of just fighting and no cutaways to humans. It's just monster on monster. Just they're going to go at it. And he says there is definitively going to be a winner. There will be a winner, and then they'll move on from there. But in general, Kong, he knows how to use tools.
He's got opposable thumbs.
We've got 2 for Kong, 1 for the Zillman.
Yeah, my original gut reaction was to vote for Superman, but I don't think he's in the running in this one.
No,
sorry,
no, he's tending to Martha.
Have to go with Godzilla.
Which Martha?
On this.
Batman's mother, Martha, or
oh, she's dead though.
Can we get an F in the chat for?
So we got. So do we have 2 for Godzilla and 2 for King Kong? Then?
And here's my reasoning. Here's my reasoning on Godzilla.
Okay.
Godzilla now has underlings, and there's a lot deeper lore behind Godzilla. So if we're looking at this from a business perspective, there's a lot more to work with Godzilla, with declaring him the winner.
Now, what I will say, and this may be spoilers, but I really don't know. But the company Funko recently released a Funko Pop for Mechagodzilla.
You can see him in the trailer. It's like
you did tell me that.
It's not. They don't really hide it that well.
Yeah.
So, and it kind of makes sense.
Godzilla.
At the end of the day, I think it's going to end up being somebody's going to win out over King Kong and Godzilla, but then they're both going to have to fight Mechagodzilla.
Yeah. So is this going to be like a Batman Superman situation where it's like
it's kind of about them, but it's exactly like that. So we're hyped about it. The question is now, let's take another vote. Who's going to go see it in theaters and who's going to wait and see it at the home release?
Theaters.
Oh, wait.
I kind of want to see it in theaters, guys.
Wait.
This sounds badass.
I'm already looking at IMAX tickets. I'm like, I got to go. I got to support my boy, which I guess, gets us back to, I guess, the topic at hand. So seen as Kong vs. Godzilla or Godzilla vs. Kong is the next Warner Brothers HBO Max release. Alex, so on the same day, I think it's actually the end of this month. I think it's March 31st, which I think is a Wednesday. So it actually opens middle of the week. It will be on HBO. They have it on HBO Max for a limited engagement of, I think, 6 weeks. Okay. Somewhere in that vein. So you can watch it on HBO Max free when you subscribe, obviously. Watch it as many times as you want, all that jazz. But then after a certain amount of time, I think it's 6 weeks, it disappears. And then you have to go see it in theaters or rent it on video on demand and then eventually buy it on Blu-ray, right? So that's kind of their release strategy, so to speak. I haven't delved into the numbers on any of their previous releases. Their latest release, I think, that they did HBO Max and in theaters was Judas and the Black Messiah. I don't know the numbers on how well it performed in the box office versus like how many people were watching it. I actually don't think that those numbers, I think this carries across Netflix and Disney Plus as well. They don't disclose those numbers as far as like how many people are like actively like streaming that content.
Man, Judas and the Black Messiah did great according to its reviews. No, like it got a 96% on Rotten Tomatoes. It's got a 4.7 rating from audiences. Nominated for a number of Oscars, including Best Picture, I believe, this year. Yeah, currently the box office is not available because it's still technically in theaters.
Oh, okay. Well, so that's an interesting thing. They made this decision back in the throes of 2020 because of the current state of affairs, right? And there was like, hey man, we can't keep pushing these movies because they're starting to cannibalize other movies. And if you've looked at the release schedule for 2021, it's pretty stacked, right? Because a lot of movies have moved, right, from 2020 to 2021. Right. And it got to a point where they're like, we have to figure out some solution to this where we can make our money back, but also get these movies out and then move beyond it and then start pushing for our 2022 releases, 2023, and so on and so forth, right? I have heard rumblings, through various media pundits on YouTube that are really close to Hollywood and entertainment, that a lot of people, well, for one, this decision, right, to go video on demand streaming, right, and theatrical day and date was made without any filmmakers' approval or even notice, right?
So this is all producers and executive decision.
This is all upper echelon Warner Brothers execs that are trying to make money and trying to get raises. Because I'll tell you this, HBO Max, when it first launched, apparently was very much underperforming amongst, Amazon Prime, Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus, all that shit, right? Yeah. So from people that I trust, sources I trust, and news articles I read and stuff like that, someone has said, and I would not say that this is completely unbelievable, but this decision came from a guy that was like, if I do this, if I pitch this and we go through with this, it will save HBO Max and therefore save my ass. And and if it succeeds, then I'm climbing up high, baby. And AT&T is also involved with this to some capacity because they have a partnership with HBO Max. So there's a lot of four-dimensional chess happening here, like a lot of people playing different parts and stuff. But at the core of it, another thing that really rubs me the wrong way, because I will always choose to go see a movie in the theater because that's the way that the directors and the filmmakers and the cast and everybody on set, they're making this movie for that, right? Yeah. Unless it's a Netflix movie, right? Sometimes, Netflix will give them The Irishman, for instance, Martin Scorsese's latest picture. He could only make that movie with Netflix because they were like, we'll give you whatever amount of money you want to do. You can make it as long as you want, and you're just going to put it on Netflix and it's going to be great. It had a limited theatrical run as well. But for the most part, these movies are meant to be seen in the theater. And there is, I'm sure we all can recall a moment seeing a movie in theaters and that genuine, like cerebral sort of feeling that you get while watching this movie. I mean, like Endgame, like seeing that movie in theaters with an audience is like, you can't replicate that sitting on your sofa and watching it.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, for me, it's like if you look at movies like as an art form, every art form is intended for a specific medium.
Yeah.
And for films, it is a movie theater. So that makes complete sense. Like the movie for me that made it like click was Mad Max Fury Road. Like just how,
as far as the artistry.
Yeah. As far as like the artistry of like, oh, this is like the difference between me like pirating it on my computer and watching it that way versus like me going and watching it in theaters 4 times over the span of like a month was just like, I will take that any day. Like,
and I mean, there's a huge difference between standing in front of the Mona Lisa and Googling the Mona Lisa on your phone. Like, that's the kind of thing that you have to think of it as. Because I know, in my example would be Into the Spider-Verse. I know, Michael, you saw that with me. We were there at the same time. We saw it in Sony Digital, which it was made to be played with Sony Digital in an IMAX theater. And, like, we were awestruck by the shit that we were seeing. We were like, oh, my God, this is the most beautiful thing we've ever seen. So like that's one that I couldn't imagine anywhere else.
I specifically remember when we went and watched that movie, I was so confused about like the art style and whether or not like because it's that duotone red and blue that it does throughout the entire movie. I got up in the middle of the movie and went to go ask the people at the ticket desk, like, hey, is this movie supposed to be 3D and we just didn't get our glasses?
No.
Like, nope, it's just that way.
No, you got it.
Yeah, I saw it. Somebody told me to go watch. Friend of the show, John Kincaid, and you probably both told me to go see it.
Yeah,
or stream it or whatever, because we can't really see movies. But I was watching it right here on this big old TV that you guys can't see, and it had just hit me like just another movie. It was a good movie. It had a great story, but I don't know if it was like, I don't know if I had an awe-inspiring moment where I was just like, holy shit.
It was the movie that convinced me to get a sound bar, like the $200 sound bars you can get that like boost the bass throughout your entire room.
Yeah.
That movie was like, you need this or else you're going to be missing out on a bunch of shit. So like, I got it.
That bass?
Did that for me.
What did that for you, Nick?
Tenet, and I got like I got my sound system all rigged up, but I can't use it because that movie's loud as hell. And
that movie fucking sucks. Because listen, I was here watching it and I was watching Tenet and I don't know what they did with the audio mixing or anything like that. Great story, by the way.
Yeah.
But I just couldn't make out they were talking, and I was like, "Huh? What?
Yeah.
I can't hear you."
Subtitles for that movie, but that's a different discussion altogether. But you guys understand what I mean in the sense that there is this communal factor to seeing a movie and seeing it in the way that the directors and everyone involved intended it to be screened, right?
Right.
So I'm going to use that to kind of pivot over to, I'm going to kind of briefly cover a few of the remarks from notable filmmakers that were impacted by this. I'm going to start with basically Christopher Nolan, right? Christopher Nolan fought tooth and nail of Batman fame, Inception, Dunkirk, all that good stuff.
And he's the one is he the one that's, is that the whole like the Nolan Justice League cut? Is that what's going on?
Zack Snyder.
That's the Snyder cut.
Okay.
However, he does Christopher Nolan has producer credits on it. So
okay.
So like I said, this decision came out, and a lot of these filmmakers found out about it via Twitter, basically. So
that's gotta
filmmakers that are making movies for Warner Brothers found out that their movies would be premiering on digital, on streaming. You can watch it on your phone, right? And in theaters at the same time, right? And they're like, were you going to talk to us first or what?
Because the general public will see it whichever way is easier. If it's easier to watch it on your phone, that's what they'll do. They don't care.
That's me.
Yeah. And if you have to go see it in theaters, right? You get to see it in the way that it was intended. And the thing is even people that are more cinephiles, people that would go pay to go see it in theaters, if they have HBO Max and they forget that Godzilla vs. Kong is coming out, and then they see it and it's like, oh shit, it's right here. Oh, that's out? Oh, I'll just watch it now. And then boom, they didn't go see it in theaters, Right. So it's, you catch people like that by doing that. So these filmmakers are notably like, what the hell, guys? So I'm going to read one piece real quick, a quote from Christopher Nolan. He fought tooth and nail to get Tenet in its release last year when we were really in the trenches with everything that was going on, and it did end up premiering in theaters. Apparently, it did not make enough money for them to be like, that was worth it for us. But, people did show up, people that were committed to seeing this in its desired format. So that was kind of an interesting case. And I think maybe some of the results of that had an impact into the decision that Warner Brothers and HBO, made, right?
Right.
So this is a quote from Christopher Nolan here. He says, "It's a unilateral decision that the studio took. They didn't even tell the people involved. You have these great filmmakers who worked with passion and diligence for years on projects that are intended to be feature films with fantastic movie stars. And now they've all been told that they are a lost leader for a fledgling streaming service. I've never seen everybody so upset about one particular decision. It's not right, and it's not a good business decision. It's all a bit of a mess." And then this last one I want to do when it comes to talking about the filmmakers that are involved, this one has to do with Denis Villeneuve, the guy that brought you Prisoners, Enemy, Sicario, and most recently Blade Runner 2049. And he has got Dune coming out this Christmas, this December, or it's October. I can't remember. They've moved things around. Quick preface for this: Dune is actually meant to be 2 movies. So this first one that's coming out is just half the book, and then they're going to finish it off with the other one. The only way that Denis Villeneuve was going to do this was if Warner Brothers said that, hey, we're going to split this up into 2 books and 2 movies, right? And we're going to capture it like that, right?
Because he had issues making the books into a film before, or at least people had issues doing that.
Yeah.
Dune has notably had a storied history in being adapted, from David Lynch's film to some miniseries adaptations. It's had a lot of ups and downs, but
So
stepping in.
Yeah, he believes. Go ahead, Michael.
Okay. Yeah, which a big part of that is just like the depth of I don't know if any of you have read the book, but it is a very, very deep world where everything is very deeply described as well, and in vivid detail. And being able to bring that to life in just a 3-hour movie is just fundamentally impossible.
But he has what's his name again?
The book has Denis Villeneuve.
Okay.
The back of the book has an appendix and a vocab list and different chunks of the religion of Dune, the ecology of Dune. It's a very well thought out universe from Frank Herbert. So Denis Villeneuve, he's like, hey, we need 2 movies to make this happen. Tell me that we're going to do it. I'll sign on the dotted line and we'll go. Right. And so they did. And there's actually also going to be a HBO Max TV show with Dune as well that is going to be surrounding the Bene Gesserit witches, basically, which, Lady Jessica and the Reverend Mother Moham and all those characters. It's a different side section of part of Dune with this collection of characters. All taking all that into account, right? The fact that there's still another movie and a mini series to go on HBO Max, right? This decision that HBO made could very well jeopardize whether or not that actually ends up happening. Because Blade Runner 2049 was a very expensive movie, a sequel to a beloved sci-fi classic from Ridley Scott, and that movie did not do well in the box office, even though it's a tremendous film. Critics, audiences, the people that like it, right? Really, really great movie. Just it, for whatever reason, didn't click with most general audiences. So Denis Villeneuve actually ended up writing an entire Variety article on the news outlet Variety. He wrote an entire piece basically going after Warner Brothers and HBO Max. He calls HBO Max out. He's like, dude, just because your streaming service wasn't doing well doesn't mean that you can make this decision, basically. He calls them out. I'm going to read just a quick piece from him. I won't read, obviously, the entire article. But he says, streaming can produce great content, but not movies of Dune's scope and scale. Warner Brothers' decision means Dune won't have the chance to perform financially in order to be viable, and piracy will ultimately triumph. Warner Brothers might just have killed the Dune franchise. This one is for the fans. AT&T's John Stankey said that the streaming horse left the barn. In truth, the horse left the barn for the slaughterhouse. So he is out there capping people at the knees and saying this is a bullshit thing. And if this movie does not succeed and we don't get to follow through with the rest of this and the movie just ends after this, it's going to be because of this decision. And so another thing about that, though, is that these are two prominent directors, not only just in Hollywood, but they've made a ton of movies for Warner Brothers that have reaped great success.
I mean, to the point where they're being trusted with these major franchises that could span years and years and years to come. Like, and that's the thing. These movies can be looked back on in the same way that like Lord of the Rings and Star Wars are potentially.
So just a note that I want to make, Entertain This as an entity, 100% believe that if you don't feel safe going out to theaters, like that is your choice. Like, don't go out to theaters in the middle of a pandemic. Keep yourself safe. Do whatever makes you feel good. Here's what we're saying. If an art form is made in a certain way or meant to be viewed in a certain way, it should be the artist who created that, or at least somebody who is in charge of the creative process of making it. It should be their choice on how it is viewed initially, or how it is viewed to the world at its conception. So with these movies, what we're saying is like the directors who make this and know what their final vision is, they should have first dibs at how this is shown and should not be undermined by studios in a money-making attempt.
Especially in such an underhanded way.
Correct.
Yeah, I guess the primary solution to all this is just wait until it's over. You know, you can wait a year.
That's for sure an option.
Or I mean, but from a producer and like business standpoint, they can't.
Even just like what Nick had already touched on, they did was they released to the audience who felt comfortable to go see it.
Exactly, but that's not like the entire pie. You know,
that is not.
That's a slice of the pie.
But that is the answer that is best for the director, is to release on schedule when planned to the audience who will go and see it and not worry about the money that it makes.
Yeah,
because the reason
I think
the tricky thing.
Yeah.
Here's my thing is that if it is a toss-up between being able to watch the movie in its intended medium or being able to watch the movie at all, I am always going to side on the side of being able to watch the movie at all. Like if it's a matter of like if I'm not able to, or in a position where I can go to a movie theater right now, I am absolutely going to like I'm going to respect an option for me to be able to watch it from the comfort and safety from my own home. But that needs to be done in a manner that doesn't undermine the artist, the multiple artists at the core of a movie production.
Right. Yeah, like pay $20 to watch it on the streaming service, you know?
Well, then the question becomes like, do you wait to release it to streaming after it's had that initial theatrical release that respects? So like you don't get to see it the same day as the people who want to go out into theaters. You wait 6 weeks for its theatrical release to end. And then you get to stream it, because I think that's fair as well.
Yeah.
That's what we're used to. Right. That's what we're used to. Exactly.
I think, I mean, if you're going to posit to me like, hey, Nick, you either have to watch Dune on HBO Max and or maybe in theaters, right? Or you don't get it at all. It's like, of course, I'm gonna pick that deal. But if it's like, hey, wait another year, you don't get it this year, but if you wait one more year, it'll be in theaters. It's like, okay, cool. I could wait too. I think though, just in broad strokes, how, for one, the big thing to me that I really don't appreciate out of this is just like the dismissive nature of it, in the sense of like not taking into consideration all of the hard people that worked on it. Not only the filmmakers and all the way from the below line people to, you know, your A-list actors and stuff like that, but even other financiers, you know, like the reason why, you know, Dune is kind of having this weird thing right now, because I don't know if they've settled on anything right now, but Legendary, who, you know, is behind a lot of movies, they put a ton of money into Dune. And so they're backing up Denis Villeneuve, because this affects them as well. They're like, we helped finance this movie a great portion, and we intend to get that money back.
And that's how they make their money back, is through box
so they're
office.
like, we need this movie to go out there, you know. And so Dune's particular release, it's at the end of the year, so it'll be by the time they've gone through most of their slate. There's a chance that it could be only in theaters. Maybe they scrap it from HBO. However, I think two ways that this could have been done cleaner is one, inform your filmmakers and everyone involved and be like, hey man, here's what we're thinking of doing. This is a really odd time. It's uncomfortable situation that we're in. We're trying to make ends meet. Talk to us. What can we do here? Let's try to make a deal here. And then I think I can go through a number of these movies that are impacted by this. And I would venture to guess that a number of these movies, they would be fine with this deal. It's your Denis Villeneuve's and your Christopher Nolan's that are probably going to be the more like, keep it in theaters. And for those guys, I think that, hey, have it run in theaters exclusively 3-6 weeks. And then, hey, you can rent it on HBO Max or you can rent it somewhere else, right? So, especially now in 2021, because they said it was this year, not 2020, and in 2021 now, things are, we're getting things under control. We're kind of on our way out. So, in Dune's case, by this point, and by the point that movie comes out, we should, God willing, be out of this. So I think that would have been a better alternative of how this would have panned out. Let me real quick, I'm just going to hit a few big ones here of movies that are impacted by this, movies that are going to be HBO Max and theatrical day and date, and then we can talk about that. And then I want to talk about just movie theaters as a whole and what this could potentially do, because there is something that came out with one movie theater chain that is being impacted. Maybe not directly from this, but probably partially to this. And we'll discuss that momentarily. But we got
one thing I just want to tag on before we get into this list. Something that I think will kind of help the audience, maybe the more uninformed audience, is a lot of people were kind of on board with the Sony Marvel discussion of Spider-Man that was happening. In that deal, Sony, the original deal was Sony got all initial like box office money, and then Disney got they got merchandising rights is what they got, or maybe it was the other way around. But either way, you can see how in a deal like that where two studios are involved, how if a theatrical release was completely avoided due to these like aspects, how that can like screw over a large company. And I think that kind of ties into how Lighthouse is feeling about this movie that's coming out, because that's how they make their money. Like, they don't make their money through the streaming services, and that's the problem that they're facing.
I mean, look at it this way. A lot of newer directors, they're people that are just coming onto the scene. They release a lot of films on like Netflix. They release series on Netflix. Streaming is their bread and butter. But these big name directors like, Martin Scorsese and Christopher Nolan and other people that I don't know the names of off the top of my head, like those are people that belong in movie theaters. If you ask anyone, they don't belong on streaming services. They don't belong on par with like Netflix people.
It'd be the equivalent of a CEO finding out that he gets the same Christmas bonus as like the guy who mops the floors.
Exactly.
Just because the world's that way right now.
Maybe a good comparison would be like, take The Hateful Eight by Quentin Tarantino.
Great
that
film.
Was specifically shot with a certain kind of film and camera to achieve a specific feel and vibe.
That costs more.
That cost way more because it could only be supported by certain movie theaters because of that. It's like that is a director making a specific decision to hopefully benefit the vision that he has for his film.
Because he knows that if he achieves that vision, it's going to be a box office success.
Well, and it's also like that is just like, it's not even like for a lot of people that it's a matter of it being and this is coming from like
this is an artist point of view.
This is an artist point of view.
Put on your beret here.
It's not about like a lot of people don't make art to be successful. They make art and as a side effect, they are successful because of the nature of their art. And to me, that's like Quentin Tarantino. His movies are very different from any other movie like style out there. Like he has his own style that he is like very specific with. And it's just as a side effect, he is successful. And The Hateful Eight is like a really good one to point to because there was so much technical stuff that was encapsulated in that entire movie that would be just completely undercut by this sort of decision that would leave him essentially out to dry and just wipe away like a quarter of the decisions that he made for the entirety of the movie.
Yeah. Great point, Michael.
Excellent point. Yeah. I literally, it was funny that you mentioned Tarantino, because I was literally thinking if one of Tarantino's movies was on this list with HBO Max, he would be pissed.
I mean, Wes Anderson is the same. It's the same boat. If Wes Anderson movies were treated the same way, he would be pissed. I'm sure.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, and he's got a movie coming out this year, not under Warner Brothers, but I don't even know when that's going to end up coming out. I haven't heard anything about that.
Right.
But just real quickly, I mean, so upcoming films, part of this slate, things that are affected by this is obviously Godzilla vs. Kong, Mortal Kombat, the third Conjuring film, Space Jam 2.
That's nuts to me.
The Suicide Squad. James Wan's newest original horror film called Malignant, Dune, obviously, and The Matrix 4. These are all movies that are going to be in theaters, and then, hey, just 15 of my friends all come over and let's just watch it on my TV, basically, and not pay.
Watch it on your phone in the bathroom. There you go.
I mean, really, like, I mean, each one of those movies, while like each one has its own merit, the only one that's really like is going to garner like a major attention is Dune, and it.
All right, Space Jam 2 is pretty good though.
Yeah, Michael.
Sure. I as much as I'd love to see the Monstars back at it again, I don't know. It's one of those things where it's like Dune in particular is a very interesting case in that, because it feels like it's just as much it's just such a like strong business decision on something that already has so much money invested into it that it feels like that decision as a whole is being made strictly to save face for the production company. Like, I don't know, because like the movie has already been in development and shooting, and like it's been edited time and time and time again, and it has been tried to be done so many times in the past that it seems like they made a decision, because like from the business end, like you make a decision to push a movie out at a specific time, and there's a lot of money that comes with making a hard date.
It takes forever to make a movie. That's something a lot of people don't recognize.
Yeah,
like you need to plan this out and book
especially
things.
On the one of caliber of Dune. Like,
oh yeah,
with that director behind it, as well as like the amount of technology that they're pumping into it, it's a shit ton of work.
This movie stands the most to lose by this deal, I think.
Yeah. For sure.
I mean, I could totally be wrong. I'm just reading the room. I'm reading the reaction box office wise to Blade Runner, and I'm looking at this movie, which is a lot bigger even, than Blade Runner 2049, and it's a lot headier than 2049. It's a dense read. It's complex. It's dealing with a lot of themes. To be honest, it's not a general audience film, and I'm just going to say that, right? I hope more people go see it, but...
Okay, I've got a counter to that, though. Lord of the Rings.
Fair. Okay, sure. Yeah, I'll give you that. And you know what? They are describing this to be at that scale, at that level of detail and grandeur. So you know what? Yeah, you're right. It totally could appeal in that manner. I don't know. I think that reading the writing on the walls and stuff, I feel like this deal, Dune, stands to lose the most out of all these other films.
It kind of feels like this deal was made to get Dune out the door,
which is bonkers to me if that's real, because that's a lot of money they've invested in that, and that's an auteur director that they've secured to make that movie. And Warner Brothers would stand to gain a lot by being the studio that was able to make this book movie adaptation actually happen, right?
Yeah, I mean, but at a certain point though, like, and this kind of goes back to what I talked about in the Cyberpunk 2077 episode that I did. And
I know where you're going with this.
A lot of it has to do with while it would make much more sense from an artistic standpoint and from a like respect standpoint for Warner Brothers to continue to delay this until it can get the proper premiere that it deserves. At the end of the day, making money now makes more sense to a business than to wait and make money later, because making money is better than not making any money. And for them, that is the entirety of what this decision looks like.
The decision was made as a sort of like, bailing off the Titanic and like, trying to secure a position on that lifeboat, grabbing a kid and be like, I gotta go.
It makes more sense for them in that situation to find a life vest or find a like inner tube, grab that, jump off the boat than it is to wait for a lifeboat.
Warner Brothers is Billy Zane in Titanic.
Yes. I think we've cracked the code here,
guys. I think we did it here. I don't know how, but I think tonight we solved world hunger somehow.
You guys are making a little too much sense, and I'm sober.
Kind of one of the last things I wanted to touch on in regards to all of this is how this decision is impacting movie theaters. Movie theaters have been over the past year in various stages of closed, opened, unclosed, all that good stuff. And a lot of theaters that maybe aren't open right now or in kind of uncharted waters right now is because a lot of them just don't have movies to play, right? They're showing Shrek in theaters again, or they're showing Norbit. I don't know.
Yeah, Norbit.
I just picked a movie.
You picked Norbit.
Dr. Doolittle.
Dr. Doolittle himself. They're just picking random obscure movies. The Nutty Professor 2, The Clumps.
Christmas with the Clumps.
And so they're just trying to pick movies, that they get a couple new releases as well. Like again, Godzilla vs. Kong is going to be in theaters, but you can only play that on so many screens and you got to do other things as well. So for a while it's been like, well, there's no reason we can reopen because there's no movies releasing because everything gets delayed and stuff like that. And then now there's this additional struggle, which is how are we going to convince people amidst, whatever health concerns they may have and fears of wanting to go out, all good and fine. Take your health into your own hands, whatever. It comes down to like, oh, maybe I'm not like scared of getting sick or anything like that. But if I could just stay here, I don't have to get in my car, drive over to the theater. I can just watch the Suicide Squad at home.
Yeah.
Cool.
Convenience.
And I pay $7 a month or whatever it is, or for HBO Max. I don't have to spend like $15 for a ticket or whatever. And my kids don't want to come and we don't have to get popcorn and stuff. Great. Awesome.
That's another thing. It's definitely a lot more economic to just go ahead and host a movie night at your house than it is to go out to theaters. But on that same note, like going to theaters is kind of what made it fun, like that was the event, was going out to these theaters and to like spend a little too much on like popcorn or like get a slushie or whatever. Like that's what made theaters fun.
Well, yeah. Well, look at as a funny example. Look at like what we think of when it comes to a first date now. It's you used to go to a movie theater. Now it's Netflix and chill.
That's not a first date, Michael. That's a hookup.
He's starting to sound like an old man now. Back in my day, we used to go to movie theaters.
Back in my day, if you wanted to Netflix and chill, you had to sit in the back row.
I'm on the
to hide from prying eyes.
Trying to sneak a smooch.
I miss the good old days when I could go into an adult movie theater and
Pee Wee Herman has yet again crested his head into our podcast. Are we okay, guys? Why do we keep talking about Pee Wee Herman? We haven't had an episode on Pee Wee's. I mean, I think we did a quick this on Pee Wee's Playhouse once.
We did a wee Pee Wee.
Yeah.
Say that again.
A wee Pee Wee.
No, sorry, that was a threat. I meant to threaten you. Like, I dare you say that again.
Get it? Because it was a quick fit.
Yeah.
I need to stop doing this on camera, maybe.
What were we talking about again?
We were talking about movie theaters.
The impact of movie theaters and how this decision is affecting them. I mean, still to this day, I think right now, Regal theaters are not open.
Really?
Cinemark and AMC are the two big ones, the two big top tier movie houses that are still running right now. Regal was open and then they reclosed. I don't know if that was amidst this decision or not, but most recently, and this really hits home for me, a movie theater chain franchise, if you will, that I hold very dear to me, not only because I worked for them, but I believe that they are one of the best movie theaters for film fans, and that's Alamo Drafthouse Cinema. They started in Austin, Texas, and they've expanded far and wide. They have an LA location, a couple in New York. They're in a number of, they're Colorado, I think. They're in a bunch of different places. They were going to open one in Orlando, the first one in Florida. And recently they announced that they have filed for bankruptcy, the company.
Oh, man.
And they pretty much scrapped production or construction rather on the Orlando location. And they closed 2 locations in San Antonio, Texas. And they closed what I think, if memory serves me, the first location they ever debuted in downtown Austin, Texas, 6th Street, on Dirty 6th Street, downtown. It's a location called the Ritz. It's sandwiched in between bars and in the very eclectic, cool town of downtown Austin, Texas. It is a 2-screen theater. So it's very small, it's very cozy and mom and pop in many respects. And if you don't know, Alamo Drafthouse, they are a theater that they have tables and people come and basically bring it's full dining service, right? You have servers, people come, bring you drinks, food. They also host movie parties where you get props and stuff, and like you can yell at the screen. They do sing-alongs. They have cast and like filmmakers come in and do Q&As and stuff like that.
So next week, after this episode, we're going to be doing an episode on The Room. In it, I will touch on some things like the throwing spoons at the screen, throwing a football around the theater. Alamo Drafthouse is the place where that is like their bread and butter.
That is, yes, absolutely. And people dress up and stuff. So they do that all the time. They do these things called Weird Wednesday, where they show very weird, offbeat 35 millimeter prints of just obscure, weird movies. They do Terror Tuesdays, which are, again, 35 millimeter prints of just really ultra low B movie horror films and stuff like that. So I saw a movie there. They did Matthew McConaughey's, one of his more recent movies, Harmony Korine's The Beach Bum, where he's basically just like a stoner and it's just his adventures in Florida and stuff. And so I saw the movie, and in the theater, they pumped in fog that smelled like weed the entire time while you were watching the movie. And so it's just dumb. It's dumb shit like that they do to immerse fans into theaters. And it's also just a celebration of film. And what sucks about this, in addition to the fact I worked there for 2 years, actually, I was a server there, and had a lot of, it's very famous. And I have a lot of great memories there. Not only just working there, but just going to that theater. And since I've moved away from Austin, Texas, I've missed it dearly. And they're not completely under. They're just in a very tough spot right now. And the Ritz Theater that they did close on 6th Street, it sucks because when I do eventually go back to Austin, Texas, I won't be able to go to that theater again. And my last experience there, it's good and bad thinking back on it, but I got to see Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Tarantino's latest film, in 35 millimeter
print.
Which
was fantastic, by the way.
If I would have known what was coming, I would have relished that moment even more than I did, because it was the last movie I saw before I moved from Texas. And now looking back, I'm like, shit, I'm not going to be able to go back in that theater again and be back in those memories and stuff like that. So long story short, I'm worried. I have no idea what's going to happen, not only as a result of the HBO Max Warner Brothers decision with theaters, but what's going to happen with theaters in general as a result of the shifting tides of how people consume media with all the streaming platforms and things like that. Are we seeing a paradigm shift that has the cat been let out of the box and we can't get it back in now? And we're just kind of slowly losing what made going to the movies special. I don't know. I'm genuinely curious what you guys think.
I think it's an only time will tell kind of thing. But I mean, I've already kind of discussed how I stand on this, which is like going to the movies was sparsely about the movie for me. It was the going out, getting friends together, like going and experiencing this thing. And yeah, the movie was always a plus. It really depended on what was in theaters as to whether or not this was even something we considered doing as a group. But for me, it was always like a night out meant going to the movies and seeing something new. I'm not a huge film buff. I know a good amount about film just because I pay attention. But yeah, for me, I think that that's not something that streaming services can provide to me. I know people have nights where they're like, let's stream the latest like MMA fight. Let's all come over to people's houses and watch like this, that, or the other. Like WWE does streaming things. Like they've been the original like pay-per-view kind of event specialists. But I don't think that's something that movies will ever be able to accomplish at home. So on that note, I find safety in there's an experience that goes along with going to the movies that I don't think can be offered anywhere other than the movies. And I think that alone will keep it afloat. Because I think people want to go back. They want to go to the movies.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna partially agree with you on that point because yes, I think that the real hardcore cinemaphile people are gonna go to the movies and they'll tell people like us about this is a great experience and you have to, like what you said in like the opening preamble, this is a piece of art that is meant to be seen in these particular places. I think as soon as people figure that out, they're going to go to the movies. I don't know as much as they did pre-internet and pre-streaming, but they'll certainly go more often. I mean, it's just, you cannot beat the convenience that comes with streaming a video on your TV. Yes, it won't be as good, but at the same time, I mean, heck, working from home has made it so that you don't even have to put on pants to work. You know
who's safe in all this? You know who's safe in this entire? I don't know. You were talking, Nick, and it made me think about like, you know, pre-internet, pre-streaming or whatever, or people getting to the theaters as much. And I'm like, Marvel and Disney is safe.
Oh yeah,
you know why?
They figured out a way to do it
because. Well, for one, I mean, they keep pushing like, hey, Black Widow is going to be in theaters. We're not putting it on Disney Plus. It's coming out this May.
They have the money to do that, though.
Right. And
they have FU money, for lack of a better term.
But even still, like Disney is like, they were hurt by this past year. And like, once they stopped constructing the theme park rides that were already in construction at the Disney World and Disneyland parks, any future stuff that they had proposed and like announced, they're not going to get to that for years to come because they have to recover a lot of loss. But when it comes to getting people out of the house, take WandaVision, for instance. That show, yeah, it's meant to be viewed on Disney Plus. That's the medium it was supposed to be presented in, right? Mm-hmm. However, if you want to see the continuing adventures of Scarlet Witch, Wanda, you're going to have to go see Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness in theaters.
That's how they do it. It's not going
to be on Disney Plus.
That's how they do it.
You got to go. So like, you know, I think they're sitting pretty. So
that's a great point.
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective on this whole thing is there's a few things that I thought of. Well, Alex, you and Nick were talking. For me, like, yes, this is a thing that we try and do as friends to do, but we are a very different perspective on a lot of this because we take the entertainment industry by nature of us wanting to even start a podcast about it. We take it more seriously than most people. And we try and be more informed on things more than like a regular person would.
True.
But at the same time, like we started this podcast as essentially a replacement for that. Like we started the podcast at the beginning of this global pan express.
Nice.
As for us to continue to be able to hang out together and being able to talk about entertainment, which was essentially what we did before this with going to the movies. So I don't know. We have found a void for it to be filled with in its absence. We have found a way to fill that void. But at the same time, like I think we have a very different perspective on things because we actively try to engage ourselves with this medium than most people normally would.
Yeah, we need shit to talk about weekly. That's for sure. Here's an argument that I'll make, just to kind of see if I can turn tides on either of your guys' perspective. But
I have agreed.
first, okay, so I want to change that to maybe a little bit more than half. Pirating movies has existed since the internet.
True.
From the dawn of time, you could go onto the internet and you could search whatever movie, like fucking, I don't know, Boss Baby Torrent, right?
3D. Boss Baby
Like before all this like crazy Panda Express shit started and we got fucking Japanese noodles all over the place. Like you could stay at home and you could watch movies that were in theaters before this.
Mhm.
The only thing that stopped you from doing that was
Jail, fines.
you wouldn't download a car.
Watch me.
Yeah, what?
Yes, I would if I could.
Download a purse.
Are you kidding me?
You
But
wouldn't download more RAM.
the point that I'm getting at is, like, you've always been able to do that. Sure, certain people didn't know how, and streaming sites have made it easier to watch movies at your house. But you hear from, let's talk people who aren't us, like parents talk about like, this is the only night a week that I get to like take my kids out is to go see this like new Pixar film. Like they'll sit and they'll be quiet and they'll watch this and I'll get to be out and do this stuff. That's something that was taken away from them. Now they're still stuck at home. Or like, this is the only night we get away from the kids is to come and see like this movie in theaters. We leave them with the babysitter, but because this is like rom-com or like an R-rated movie, like this is the only night we get away. Like we need that time for us as a couple. But even further, I would say, just as human beings, we are pack creatures. We always have been. So like watching movies and like experiencing them in a group, even if it's with people you don't know, like hearing other people laugh at jokes reaffirms that like, oh, my sense of humor is good. Or like hearing other people like scream during horror movies, it reaffirms you as a person. Like, yeah, that was scary. And that's just not stuff that you get if you're just sitting at home streaming things, or if you're having a couple of friends over. Like it's this human experience of going and experiencing this with other people. Because at the end of the day, movies are experiences that you pay for. Experiencing it with other people, that's kind of what draws you into it. So I feel like that, again, is not something that streaming services can replace.
I've forgotten what it's like to be human. Please help.
The communal experience is a huge factor, Alex. I'm glad you touched on it. I mean, that's, I think, kind of, I touched on the beginning of the episode talking about, you know, your favorite experience or the one that you recall, you know, and I mentioned Endgame. It's just like the impact of that movie. Yeah. It still hits hard if you watch it at home, but like sharing that moment with an audience is like infectious, and it's elevates the movie to degrees that weren't possible watching at home. And that can be said about other movies as well.
Right. It's the only movie that I've been a part of that like at the end of the movie, people clapped. There was a standing ovation in my like screening of Endgame, which is like something that people talk about like all through the 80s. Like people would clap at the end of movies or whatever. But this was like the first time that I was there when like a round of applause happened at the end of Endgame.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. For me, it was the stunned silence at the end of Infinity War. Like everyone
people just sat
like,
there.
Yeah. Like I sat there and I don't remember who I went with, but I remember sitting there at the end of that movie and waiting, like not just like after the credits, but like waiting like 5 minutes after the end credits were all done just to sit there and process everything that just happened.
Damn.
That's because they fucking lost. Like you sat there for 5 minutes going, oh my God, they lost.
But the thing that I remember is that I felt comfortable being able to do that because there were like 3/4 of the theater also felt like they needed to do that.
Yeah, that's
like,
the
here's
thing.
how I experienced those films is, forgive me for not watching them sooner, but I did watch them last year. So I was watching them down here, sitting on the couch behind me.
Yeah.
And I didn't get that effect. I was
You're
just like, that was cool. Natalie, you want to go to bed? Like, that's all.
Plus, you watched them knowing what was coming next.
A little bit. I didn't keep up with the whole Marvel thing, but now that I have, I'm glad I did. But it wasn't like the same effect as watching it in theaters. So totally agree.
Case in point. This is it. This is the
Yeah.
thing, man.
Case closed, man.
Yeah. That's another thing too. Is like, another aspect of this that we didn't really even touch on, which I mean, we can just lightly graze it, is the fact that these movies day and date are going to be on streaming platforms, HBO Max in particular. These movies end up on streaming sites. I know 2 off the top of my head that if I wait on the day that Kong vs. Godzilla comes out, a day or 2 after, boom. Even if I didn't have HBO Max, it's like it's there.
You're tech savvy though, so you know the like new Pirate Bay and things like that.
But here's the thing: there's those avenues where you torrent and like, I don't know if I should say those things, but like in Pirate Bay, I don't use them. I'm just saying those things exist.
Nobody on this podcast currently uses any torrent-based website.
I'm not doing it right now.
Thank you, Archibald, for that. The omnipotent voice that comes in.
Yeah, he's expensive, so I'm glad we finally got to use him.
Yes, good. Now shuffle him away.
He's gone. We couldn't catch him if we tried.
But there's these 2 websites I can think of. I'm not going to mention them, but like you literally just go there and you click on the movie and close out a few pop-up ads and you're good to go and you're watching it. You don't have to download anything. No viruses. It's just there it is. So it's like I think about that when it comes to movies like Dune or Matrix 4 and all these other movies through this HBO Max Warner Brothers deal, where it's like, even if you don't have HBO Max, you can, by putting them on a streaming service, you already make it infinitely easier to get a crisp HD quality copy of that. And then it's like, they're off to the races, then that's how you get people down in New York City. Those guys that are like, hey, I got DVDs. You want a DVD? And it's like, I got a.
Hey, you see Flushed Away yet? I got Flushed Away.
I got Chicken Run here in HD.
Sign me up. I'll take 2.
So that's a whole nother can of worms that, it hurts the filmmakers. You know what I mean? Yeah. So like it's much harder to get a very nice quality copy of a movie that's newly released in theaters, pirated, right? Versus if you just make it available on a streaming platform, it's much easier. And then that hurts the filmmakers because then it's distributed and it's illegally stolen and it's not being presented in the way that they wanted it to be. So
could I do a quick little conspiracy thing here?
You can do a very quick one, but then we have to throw it to promotions after that because we hit our hour mark.
Quick little conspiracy this. Go for it.
Okay.
Conspire this.
Don't conspire against me, but you can try. What if because we're all streaming and because these big studios are losing all this money, what if that's the reason for all these sequels coming out? Because they can't afford to pay the writers to make the new movies.
Well, no, I think it kind of goes along that line. But what it really is that because there's like not much money to be made in like newer properties, a lot of these production companies are looking for surefire moneymakers.
Yeah.
And
why do you think nostalgia is such a big thing right now? That's why
it's so easy to bet on a guaranteed hit.
Yeah. That's why like movie theaters, they fall back to showing things like Shrek. It's like they know that people are going to come out to see that because they don't have like
I'll go watch both those.
They don't have to put any effort into that. It's just take this like copy that they've stored in a closet somewhere, put it back in the film machine and just press play. Like, and cool, right. Making money.
And I'll watch it every time. I think, like a chump.
I think I might be the first person in the last like at least 5 years that's uttered the movie Norbit.
Yep.
I forgot Norbit existed until you said something. But on that note, let's take that historic moment in time. Let's frame it. Let's put it on the wall, and let's throw it to our promotional spot of the show. Before we do, I want to again thank the Scene Snobs Network for having us on the show. Of course, they have many shows that are great that you guys should also go check out. If you haven't yet, you can check them out at scenesnobs.com. So go check that out. We're going to be playing one of the promos for a show that they just introduced last week, I think, at this point. So enjoy that. We won't be having any more of Nick's little reviews after this episode. I know it's the end of an era, but this is the face behind the voice. He's falling back into the abyss. It's been lovely having him on. But Nick, before we jump over, I think you're starting your own podcast discussing a lot of movie stuff, right?
Oh,
What? Are we signing off right now? I'm confused.
We're not signing off. I'm just giving you a chance to plug your shit.
this is your 2-minute warning.
Shit. Oh,
We'll here. How about
plugs?
this? How about this? We'll make it so we'll tease that this might be coming, and then as soon as you actually put an episode out, we'll plug it in the actual podcast.
Yeah, let's give him a maybe, and then we'll hit him with the actual shit.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Later on.
Thank you. Do I say anything else? I don't know.
Yeah. So you are maybe going to.
Okay, I am maybe going to.
He is in the process of.
I am in the process
You
of,
got a
thinking of
name?
considering potentially making a podcast that I have already christened with a name, and I've secured various
He has
social
art
medias
and social
savvy
medias.
people that care about this could find it. It's going to be a film podcast with myself and a variety of guests, close friends. Alex would be one of those. Where we basically take deep dives into movies, get into different directors' filmographies. It's kind of like a movie book club, right? And we ask, the listeners and also the guests what they watched that week. It's a very, just a hanging out, talking about movies. Not all of it is super. It's not movie history. It's not film history. So don't come expecting that because I don't have everything in the top of my head.
We have that shit here. So stay here for that shit.
Yeah, if you want history, these guys are the best people. Fact check them. And the other cool thing about it is that something that I would really love to do, again, this is all hypothetical, is movie commentaries where you would be able to sync up the podcast audio track with a film on Netflix or a respective streaming platform. And you will be able to watch said movie with myself and other varieties of characters. And you can laugh along as we make fun of and riff on movies. So yeah, it's a podcast that is what is in production, but then I got a dog and things.
We
got
had a couple of
complicated,
episodes.
so-
We had a couple of episodes under our belt. We're still working on the finer things of it. What's the title of it going to be? People can look it up when they're listening in the future.
What is it?
It's called Punch Drunk Cinema. It is a play on Punch Drunk Love, a film from P.T. Anderson. So there's an Instagram, there's a Facebook, and a Twitter. If you're savvy, you could maybe find it. Again, there's nothing there yet, but
you can look there for updates.
Hopefully soon. Yes.
All right,
hopefully
sweet.
In the next month or so.
We're going to throw it to promotions when we get back. Michael has a quick this for us. So we'll see you then.
Hey, Cammy.
Hey, Bryant.
What do Robin Hood, Vlad the Impaler, and Mothman have in common?
IDK, what?
Well, they're all topics on our podcast Mystery, where each week we discuss a new myth and the history behind it. That's Myth Story with an IE. See you then.
Oh.
Justin Wallace, Mitch Glasgow, and Deanna Cosby. 3 daily commuters are joining forces to create the comedy podcast known as Carpool Shenanigans. Each week we'll take a topic, tell a story, and hopefully make your drive to work just a little less shitty. Now the episode's about to begin, so we ask that you sit back, relax, and of course, let's get weird.
Guys, in our promo time, we lost Nick. Oh, wait, there he is. Oh, he's back.
You had to pee. Give him a minute. Damn.
No, I didn't. It turned off the lights.
We did our promo bits. If you can't tell, that was our first go at the myth stories promo, and I messed it up royally. But I figured it out at the end.
Might be a good idea to go back and re-edit that.
No, it's good. We're keeping it. I already mentioned it. It's in the podcast now, so it stays.
I like that podcast. I'll check it out for sure.
Yeah, it sounds super interesting. Excited to have them on the network with us for sure.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Michael.
All right, so guys, have you all ever heard of a franchise known as Warhammer?
No.
Yes.
And I know nerds play it.
Yeah, it's a very nerdy thing. So I'm getting back to my roots here.
You live here, man. There's no going back. This is your home.
Well, I felt like after I did the whole the big game superb owl situation that I earned myself back into the normalcy of human society.
No, because before that you did one on anime girls ruling the
Shut
world
up.
as robots.
No, I didn't. No. But now it's time to delve back into the world of degeneracy. So basically, Warhammer is this whole is a franchise that encompasses both a futuristic sci-fi setting as well as a more typical fantasy setting. And it's centered around this game that started as like a tabletop war game. And like a tabletop war game is essentially where it's like you have a bunch of like mini figures like you would for like D&D, and you place them over top of like a grid that has like its own environment, roll a bunch of dice, determine the outcome, strategy is involved, and bada bing, bada boom, you've got a full-on game that has its own subculture. And recently, typically I go through cycles where I am obsessed with something and it's all I can think of for like weeks on end, and that'll last like a month, and then it's just gone and I forget about it. Warhammer has been my recent example of this, specifically Warhammer 40K. So the whole idea of this is that we are humanity in the year 40,000, the 41st millennium. And the title of the game, or essentially the subtitle of the game, is "In the Grim Darkness of the Far Future, There is Only War," which encompasses so much of what this is.
Wow.
Warhammer is known for being a grim, dark setting. Essentially, what that means is that nobody is a good guy. There is no such thing as a good guy when it comes to this. You can play as humanity. Humanity is this religious, cult-like, imperialistic society that revolves around the God Emperor of mankind and the religion that is built up around him. You have things like Tyranids. Tyranids, like if you ever played StarCraft, for example, the Zerg in StarCraft are a good analogy to basically a good example is like it's a bunch of insects that essentially go around the universe as a giant hive mind to consume just anything they can get their hands on.
So the Flood and Halo might be
that's a good example. Then you have like the gods of chaos, which are like analogous beings that just exist because of like our collective thoughts and emotions. And you can choose to become any one of these people. And so you kind of getting into 40K, you buy into this whole example of like, I am going to be a just not good person. Like I can choose to like portray myself as a good person within that, but like no one's actually good. So like for me, like I really have been enjoying this idea of building an army of people known as the Black Templars, which is this like it goes super against like everything that I believe in, but like it's just kind of fun to play with because like this ultra zealous, ultra religious, like if you do not kneel in the name of the God Emperor of mankind, you will be smote down and be killed outright. But Warhammer is just such a very fascinating environment and community because it is known to be such a huge money sink. Pretty much like anyone who gets involved with Warhammer, it's like you are putting not just hundreds, but possibly thousands of dollars into this. And that's 40K? Not getting, maybe. But you are definitely not getting and this also comes with like, you are not getting painted miniature figures. You are not getting a set up environment. A lot of it is you are getting something you have to paint and put your own artistic spin on, which is something that I personally appreciate. But it is a very different subsection of nerd culture that I have just been finding myself very interested in recently that I feel like needs to be talked about a little bit and at least get shown a little bit of not respect, maybe, because it's definitely respect is not the word I would use, but recognition.
This is like in the movies, like the old movies where they would show like the Civil War happening or like an emperor trying to like seize into like Cleopatra's land of Egypt, and like they have those big sticks with all of the like men in front of it, and they push all of the men into a certain place.
Yep.
And they're like, then we go this way and that way and attack from here and flank and whatnot. That's what it sounds like.
With dice.
So it's
dice to
D&D
make-
with that.
Yeah, essentially, and except for like instead of thinking about like real life, you're thinking about like a gothic church themed giant spacecraft flying through the void.
Yeah, that's some nerd shit right there.
Oh yeah,
Okay,
I'm
all right.
into it.
I'm on board.
Wolf, do you have any say on this?
Just seems dense. I don't know. It just seems like a lot of like heady nerd stuff that
Now you've never
I don't
even
have the
played
attention
D&D
span for.
before. You've never even played D&D before, have you?
no. But I'd love to.
We need
I'm
to
open to it.
we need to do a one-shot special episode where we
Yeah.
just like Michael, you run D&D for the three of us.
Hey, I would love to do another run of Dungeons and Daddies.
Oh, that was a good one. We
Yeah.
all played dads who were transported into the mythical world of D&D, but we were like I was like Chris Angel, but he was a 40-year-old father. So that was fun.
Mind freak?
Mind freak. Yeah, there's a lot to swallow there, guys. Let's go ahead and end it before we step into territory we can't come back from.
Daddies.
As always,
specialize in.
we thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys have anything that you want to hear us cover, the three of us, not Wolf, though we do appreciate you coming on, and we hope to have you back soon. If you guys have anything that you want to see us cover, anything in the realm of entertainment, go ahead and shoot us an email. We are entertainthispodcast@gmail.com. You can also find our social medias on Twitter. We are entertain_this. You can find us on Instagram. We are username entertainthispodcast. Check out our website, www.entertainthis.net, or you can find us on thescenesnobs.com. We want to once again thank The Scene Snobs for having us on their network, and they have a great variety of shows over on their network. You should check out all of them. Again, if you visit that website I just mentioned, you could check all those out. But most importantly, please send us recommendations for future episodes. Entertain us so we can entertain you, and you can entertain this. We'll see you next Friday. Goodbye.
Bye. Bye. This episode of Entertain This was written by Nick Wolf, with additional commentary from Michael Savoya, Nick Mustakangas, and Alex Steele. Our theme music is Rushable by Aaron Spencer, with interstitial music by DJW. Tune in every Friday for new episodes, and thanks for listening.